Well, the inevitable has finally happened. Manchester United has finally sacked Erik ten Hag. For about the last year, it's been when, not if, and it finally happened. And we can break down Erik ten Hag's tenure till we're blue in the face, but today I want to talk about what Manchester United is going to do moving forward, because there is one thing they need more than anything else, and the fans, Manchester United fans, play a big role in this. We're going to talk about what it is next here on Pints and Punditry at the Pitchside Pub. So it's not every day that the supporters of a club get to play a major role in what their team does next, but that day is today for Manchester United fans, because what Manchester United needs most right now is patience, and that extends to the fan base. They need to be patient with whatever move comes next from Manchester United, because whatever's coming next, it cannot be rushed unless Manchester United wants to continually repeat the cycle that they're in that has left them wallowing in the middle of the Premier League table. So we're going to talk about that next, but before we do, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me down below so you can follow the channel. Get down in that comment section. Let me know what you think Manchester United should do next. Should they have made this move? Get in that comment section. Let me know your thoughts. You can also leave comments on Twitter at Pitchside Pub, and check out the website pitchsidepub.com. So patience. Patience is the key here, because the natural reaction is, okay, how do we fix this, right? Erik ten Hag, whether you liked him or not, he's gone. It's over. And now it's, how do we fix this? How do we get this right? Clearly it is not right. You're sitting in the bottom half of the table in both the Premier League and the Europa League, which is an absolute travesty. And that's just not the standard that Manchester United has come to live by. And so how do we fix this? How do we get it right? Well, the immediate response is to make moves, right? Is to do something quickly. And that has been the problem for Manchester United for so long. There was no patience with David Moyes. There was not enough patience with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who, as it turns out, may have been your best manager of the last decade. Certainly had the most on-pitch success and has been your longest tenured manager of the last half a dozen or so. There was not enough patience with Ralf Rangnick, who, as it turns out, if you watch what he's doing with Austria, he's not a bad coach. You could have done worse. And he came in as an advisor and told the entire organization exactly what the problems were. He told them exactly what was wrong, and he was right at every single turn, but they did not want to hear it. And maybe he wasn't the best on pitch, in the technical area, tactical manager, although, like I said, with Austria, he seems to be doing okay. But he came in and analyzed that club from top to bottom and nailed it. And they ignored everything he said. So no patience there. You could argue too much patience with Erik ten Hag, although I think they spent themselves into a corner there, and then spent a ton of money this summer only to sack him in 13 games. So again, a lack of patience. Not that he deserved more of a chance, but the time to do that was this past offseason, not after you went out and bought a whole bunch of players to fit his system. So there's been no plan, no continuity, no direction. Manchester United has been a rudderless ship for the better part of a decade. Now you've got a new ownership group. Jim Ratcliffe is trying to put his stamp on things. He is pushing out Sir Alex Ferguson, which I have talked about in another video. I think that is actually a good thing, even if the way he's doing it and the way he's explaining it is pathetic. But it's a good thing that should have been done a decade ago, because Manchester United now, finally, has a chance to move forward and get out of the Fergie era. You are now, for better or worse, you are in the Jim Ratcliffe era. And they've got to figure out what that is. And as long as they continue to be reactionary, they're never going to know. And so right now, it is the time for patience. What is the rush? What is the rush? Get down in that comment section, please. Let me know what the rush is to make moves, because you're not salvaging this season. You're not winning the Premier League, right? Maybe you could get back into a European spot if you went on a nice run of games, but it is making the Conference League or the Europa League again the goal here. That's been the problem. Manchester United is so desperate not to have one of these seasons that they've put themselves in a situation where they're having one of these seasons. They're so desperate to get back to European football. Well, we got to finish top four. Well, in the desperation to finish top four, you are going to permanently put yourself in that 4 to 10 spot, instead of rebuilding and analyzing what they have. They now have 3/4 of a season to figure out what they have. And what they have is a bloated roster. A very bloated roster with massive wage bills and long contracts, and they've spent a ton of money on the transfer market, a lot of which they are not going to be able to recoup. So they've got to figure out where they can cut ties, where they can salvage, and who is a part of the future for Manchester United. And they've got 3/4 of a Premier League season and a few more Europa League games and some. I mean, there's a lot of ball left to be played this season, and they've got to figure out who is a part of their future. So I think they have 2 or 3 main decisions that they need to figure out between now and the end of the season. One is Marcus Rashford still a future core player on this team? He was the star. He was the guy when they looked like they were coming back a few years ago. He was the centerpiece. He was the star. Can he still be that guy? Is that still in him? Was he just unmotivated by Ten Hag? I'm not making any excuses for Marcus Rashford, but they have 3/4 of a season to figure out if he can still be that guy. That's problem number one. Problem number two, who else is ready to be a part of their core? They've got young players like Kobe Mainoo. He's almost a given, right? But can Josh Zirkzee be? Is Rasmus Højlund, who they thought he was when they spent the money on him? When Laney Yodo gets back, he's probably a key piece. But is Matthias de Ligt a guy they think he is? They've got some evaluations to make, but to try and start, making these moves to salvage this season would undermine the whole thing. You're not getting rid of Casemiro. You're not going to get rid of Anthony, at least not for any money. You could probably cast them off somewhere, although I'm not sure who would take Casemiro on his wage bills. Anthony, you're going to get pennies on the dollar, so you're going to have to cut ties with some of these guys, but you've got a chance to do some evaluation. The same thing goes in the technical area. Right? Ruud van Nistelrooy is going to take over. If it's me, if I'm Jim Ratcliffe, I let Ruud van Nistelrooy run the ship for the remainder of the season. What have you got to lose? That's actually what I'm asking. Get down in that comment section. Let me know what you think. What have you got to lose? What manager is out there right now that you are so desperate to get that you need to act quickly before he's gone, the way you probably should have last season with Thomas Tuchel? And I'm not a big Thomas Tuchel fan, but he would have come in and he would have righted this ship. He would have got you put it in the right direction. He wants way too much authority that I don't think Manchester United wants to give him, which is ultimately why it didn't work out. But man, he would have came in and he would have bashed some skulls in and gotten this point in the right direction. So who on the coaching free agent market, if you will, is someone that you need to move so quickly in order to get? Gareth Southgate? Is the concern that somebody else is going to snatch up Gareth Southgate between now and the summer, and that is the move that's going to right the ship? I mean, Southgate's okay. He did all right with England, but are you so desperate that you've got to go get Gareth Southgate? Graham Potter? These guys are not exactly guaranteed to be the answer. So what's the rush? What's the rush? If somebody else snatches up Gareth Southgate between now and the summer, okay, all right. That doesn't seem like the kind of move that absolutely has to be made now, or else you're going to regret it down the road. Mauricio Pochettino was there this summer. Maybe that was the guy, right? But not with Southgate and Potter and some of the guys that are available. So I don't see the harm in just tossing the keys to Ruud van Nistelrooy and seeing what he can do. Maybe he is the guy. There is a reasonable possibility that he is at least as good of a manager as Gareth Southgate or as Graham Potter, right? Maybe he's not, but those guys aren't. It's not like Pep Guardiola is available. It's not like Jurgen Klopp's going to come in, right? You're probably not turning back to Jose Mourinho. So what do they got to lose by waiting? And it's the same thing with the players. If they rush to make a bunch of moves to reinforce this roster in the January window in the hopes of getting back into a top 7 spot, you're just going to set yourself up to fail further down the road. One of the reasons the Chelsea rebuild has taken as long as it has is because they were trying to make so many moves to win immediately. When you are rebuilding, it takes time, and that's not a phrase that Manchester United supporters want to hear because the expectation is so high, and rightly so. But by chasing some sort of competence, you are putting yourself in a position to constantly be incompetent. And that has been the closest thing to an identity that Manchester United has had since Fergie left. And so they've got to take a breath. And I started off by saying that the fans play a big role in this. Manchester United supporters, I'm speaking directly to you. One of the reasons why Manchester United is so reactionary and so always constantly trying to win now is because of you, the fans. And you get it from your former stars who make up 75% of the punditry circuits, around the world, and particularly in England. There are former Man United stars everywhere running their mouth about the glory days and about how this isn't up to the standard, and then the fans buy into it, and I understand why, and it forces Manchester United to constantly make moves and to constantly try to win now, and they never get to reset. And now is the time. The manager's gone, the roster's bloated, their hands are pretty much tied financially. They can't do a lot right now. So you've got 3/4 of a season to let a caretaker manager show what he can do. And he's not nobody. Ruud van Nistelrooy is a former United player, a star, who has managerial experience. This guy isn't nothing. He would be a viable candidate in a lot of metrics, especially given what is out there. Again, there's not that much on the market available. So, what do you have to lose by being patient? Let Ruud van Nistelrooy coach 3/4 of a season, because you'll get a little bit of that caretaker manager bounce, and the Wicked Witch Erik ten Hag is gone, and the players will play a little better this next weekend, but that doesn't last 3/4 of a season. So you'll get to see what Ruud van Nistelrooy can really do, and you can challenge these players and say, okay, who wants to be here next year? Bruno Fernandes, are you still the centerpiece of this team? Right? Some of these guys, do you still want to be here? Harry Maguire, do you still want to be here? Or do you need to go? There's just so many players who don't necessarily have to have a future there, but could. The turnaround doesn't have to be that far away. It doesn't have to be that long of a rebuild, but they do need to pause and figure it out. And it's that pause that never happens. The pause never happens at Manchester United because they constantly have to win now, because the pundits are telling them that they're not up to the glorious standard of Manchester United, and the fans believe it, and they buy it hook, line, and sinker. Fans take a breath, pundits shut up, Manchester United management pause and let this play out. That is the most important thing to Manchester United right now, and I don't believe for a second that any of it's going to happen. But go ahead and get in that comments section. Let me know what you think Manchester United should do and when they should do it. Get in that comment section. Give me your thoughts. You can also leave comments on Twitter at PitchsidePub. While you're at it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me down below so you can follow the channel, and check out the website, pitchsidepub.com. Thanks as always for joining us here on Pints and Punditry at the Pitchside Pub.